Terrifier 2 was a long time coming.
And was it worth the wait? Stay tuned.
What's up, everyone? I am Wink.
And I am Skillz.
And this is Scream Cheese. Today we are talking about Terrifier 2, directed by Damien Leone and starring Lauren Lavera, David Howard Thornton, and Elliot Fulham. After being resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to the timid town of Miles County, where he targets a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night. Well, we just got back from the theater. Dude, I was so excited for this movie. I've literally been waiting and waiting. I didn't know if we'd ever get this movie. And you have recently become a Terrifier fan. What did you think,
Huge
Skillz?
fan. Well, if you want me to spoil it up front, I absolutely loved it. First of all, we had a discussion on our Terrifier review. Basically, is Art supernatural? And I think it was kind of obvious in the first film that he was. That question is answered. He's supernatural, completely. This film is a much bigger scope than the first film. The first film really felt like a small, tidy little slasher film where the focus was really on the killer and his kills. And in this film, the focus is still on Art and it's still on all of his kills. But now we actually have more of a story. We have a main character that feels like a final girl. What was unpredictable about the first Terrifier is there were no rules as far as who would get killed. In this one, you kind of feel those rules in place a bit more. This film establishes a main character that feels like she has like some type of depth and is going to carry on beyond this film. The kills in this, the carnage candy, the gore is unbelievable. It's at the brink of what I typically can handle. I think if it was a different film, I may not watch it, but I think Art is, as I said before, so incredibly iconic and so cool that I can go with it because there's an interesting thing about Art. There's moments where he's so comical and silly, it almost borders on like Jim Carrey kind of like antics, which are cool. But within a horror film, it's a really fine line. And Damien Leone is so good at knowing how far to go with that, but not to go too far. But in a nutshell, this film was a freaking trip. If you love gore, like hardcore gore and blood and carnage candy, there's no way you won't love this film. But Wink, what did you think?
Dude, I loved it too. I'm kind of infatuated with this movie already. So we got Terrifier and I was like, this is really good. Like there's something magical here. And then I looked back at All Hallows Eve and I was like, oh, I could see the kind of seedlings of like Terrifier, but it's just not as good. And I feel like the love and attention that the first Terrifier movie has gotten, it is well deserved. Absolutely. But part of it is like this investment we're making in Damien Leone. We're seeing the promise of him. And for me, this movie was the fulfillment of the promise of this investment we've made in him.
Yes.
When given more resources, the scope got bigger, the story got bigger and better. All the things that I love about Terrifier were still there. The vision was still there. But dude, there was like imagination in it. There's just everything, man. I don't know how he manages to do the gore so graphically and so well, yet not be super off-putting. I don't know if it's because it's so over the top, but it comes out as being kind of artistic, something you can appreciate. It's not so gross that you're averted to it. You get to like kind of bask in it. But yeah, man, this movie, I hate to be so over the top because it's happened with a few movies lately, but I was hella impressed with this movie to the point where like when we were getting into like what I thought was the third act, because this was longer, it didn't even feel that long, but it was much longer. As we're getting into the third act, I actually kind of went into myself and I was like, this is actually magical. This is something you're never gonna see from some other creator. We are in Damien's brain right now. This is like his baby, and I just loved it, dude. I loved the design and David Howard Thornton doing Art. If you ever had a doubt about the iconic status of Art the Clown, watch this movie and shut up. You know?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I feel the same way as you. What Damien has done is kind of different, I feel, from a lot of horror films because we had a explosion in the late 70s, early 80s of horror films. And there was a very specific style to those. And I feel like he is paying homage to that, like the principles of that, really respecting that. Like this guy loves those films. And of course, those were like 30, 40 years ago. We're in a different day and age. We have more resources. Let's really go there with this stuff. And I feel like he does. His gore is second to none, dude. It's incredible. And it's because he is actually involved in it. It's like Damien Leone is so amazing with the special effects. We don't see that anymore. We've gone through a long period where we switched over to CGI for effects. And then we realized for whatever reason, we still can't reproduce that stuff as good as practical effects. And probably even more importantly, there's something about practical effects that scream a good horror film. You know what I mean? It might not even be so much about the CGI can't do it. It's just like any type of other art form. If you're an oil painter that like paints in front of a large crowd, you could switch to digital, but there's something still beautiful about actually watching the guy mix the paint. So it's that kind of thing. I thought it was just amazing. It's like as good as a slasher film could possibly be. This guy's craft and passion and the way he goes about everything, it's like the epitome of like a great horror film. I did want to mention too that Lauren Lavera, when I first saw her, it was interesting because my first thought was like, let's see how this is gonna go. We had Tara in the last one, who I loved. Probably for the first 20 minutes in my head, I'm like, it's like going on a date. I'm like kind of evaluating this person to see how I like them. Long story short, by the end of the film, I'm like, she's amazing. What she went through in this film, she was incredible. She was like the perfect cast for a film like this. You could just feel that she was like gung-ho and passionate about it. Like she was totally involved. My last point though is not necessarily a negative, but it could be for some people. In the first Terrifier, we asked a lot of questions and we got really no answers. It was more about just going along for the ride and enjoying like this gore show. In this one, I think I was expecting more answers and we got more questions. You know, we really didn't get answers to any questions we had, but I will say that it's such a fun ride. I trust Damien Leone and I cannot wait to see a third one. I know this was crowdfunded, which I think is totally awesome. So I'm sure he'll get crowdfunded again, but I cannot wait to see where this story and these characters and this whole concept, I can't wait to see where it goes.
I would say you said it spot on though. You can kind of trust Damien Leone. I also agree with you. This movie created more questions than answering old questions we had, but I would tell you, I am more interested in the questions I have now. There is more imagination now. There has now been world building. I love the first Terrifier, but I don't know if I'll ever watch it again now that I'm gonna have this on Blu-ray when it comes out, because this is like so fulfilling to me. I was gonna say, dude, I had the same experience with Lauren Lavera. I was such a big fan of Tara in the first movie, and so when we got Lauren Lavera here, I'm like waiting to see like, is she gonna be as magical? I had the same experience. There was just a certain point where it just kind of unlocked, and dude, like I found myself just like kind of falling for her, and then like feeling that she was a final girl, and then by the end feeling like she was tough. I felt like there was this realization in that final act where I was like, she is literally Art's foil. She is almost like the good version of him.
Well, dude, you know what's crazy is even like the angelic wings, you know what I mean? It's almost like she's like good, you know?
One last thing I wanted to bring up. So you had mentioned in the opening of the first Terrifier movie that it reminded you of the Elm Street opening of like Freddy Krueger.
And
like,
he did it again. He did
it again.
Dude.
We got the Dream Warriors opening on this
exactly,
one.
Dude.
Unreal,
we got the
dude.
Dream Warriors, and we also got a bunch of Halloween music cues. And we even had Night of the Living Dead in there, which is in Halloween too. But the cool thing about it is like the nightmare spot, right when I saw that, I'm like, okay, dude, this is awesome. I know that imagery is burned in my head from Dream Warriors. It's so cool because he does it in a way to where he's totally paying tribute to it, but he's not like stilling. It doesn't feel cheap.
Yeah, he's doing his own thing. But yeah, man, I was totally impressed. I am actually gonna give this movie a 9.2.
So I said previously, after seeing Terrifier 1, that already Art the Clown was in my top 10 most iconic horror villains. And now I'm putting Art in my top 5. And I'm going to give this film a 9 and say it is again, the epitome of what a great slasher film is. Nobody is doing it as good as Damien Leone is right now.
Well, let us know what you thought of Terrifier 2. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, suggest any of your favorite horror movies in the comment section below, and we will see you next time. Peace out, cheesers.
Peace!